Hello all, this is Fahim and this is my week 7 progress video. So this week we had to study React, right? And I chose React. I could have gone for project, but I asked to study React because I thought since our React is one of the main things of um, Mern Stack, it's the R of Mern Stack, right? So I thought studying it early on would be a good benefit because the earlier we study it, the more practice that we'll get. And I also thought that since we are doing the project later on, that means we can do two projects in React, which will be great for our resume. Even though we won't be using the first project in our resume, but we'll get more practice when we create two projects using React. So that's why I decided to study React instead of going straight into the project. So talking about how I study React, um, it was really fun to study actually because it was completely different from how when you use React, the way you design a website becomes completely different from how you were creating the website before without using React. So for example, using because the logic itself is completely different because what we were doing till now using view engines, and like I was using the Pug view engine, that was server side rendering, right? So when we use React, we are doing something called client side rendering. So that's why the whole approach is different, and that was actually a pretty interesting for me. So the main resources that I used was actually just the React documentation. They have really good documentation actually, and they have proper, really interesting way. It's not boring. Like for example, the nodes documentation was very bad because it was not interesting at all and it was very boring. So I wasn't able to read the node documentation. But React has really good documentation, and they present stuff in a very interesting way. And they also have questions, like problems that we can solve at the bottom of the page. I mean, bottom of each topic that they teach us. There's a not just one. There's usually 3 or 4 questions or problems that we can solve, and we can actually see the output, which is really nice. And it's fun when it's stuff like that, when you can actually see what you're doing. So that's the main resource that I used, and I read in till the intermediate part of their learn learning documentation, and I'm planning to continue reading that. And I also used Anson the dev. I think I mentioned about him in the last video, also in my last progress video. But I also used Anson the dev's 11 hours React course. It's on YouTube for free, but I didn't watch the full thing. I was around like 7 8 hours, and most of the stuff that in the first 4 or 5 hours was just a refresher because I had already read all of the documentation, right? So then after that I went on to his video to get a refresher and also just patch up on anything that I might not have understood. So I was watching in like uh, 1.5x or 2x speed. So I for the first 4 or 5 hours, and I was also doing along here and there to get a practice on stuff. So he also covered using the fetch API and how to actually use that and send requests. So yeah, he also covered some stuff that were not in the documentation, or parts of the documentation that I hadn't read at that point yet. He taught us that also. And yeah, that's the main two resources that I used. And I also watched some small videos here and there to understand about the virtual DOM and a few stuff. But that's about how I studied. And also there's a task that we have to do, that is the to do task. And for the to do task we have to use everything that we have learned till now to make the to do task. And it was nice to actually practice what we did, and that's obviously why they give us the task to practice what we did till study till now. And it was nice to actually make something. Just after just 1 week of studying React, I was able to make an all right to do app. And there was also some questions that were provided to us, which I thought was really good questions this time. And they were questions that actually test us on if we have understood things and if we actually remember how to do things. And the first question was actually to make a component, and then there was another one question to create a counter using state, and then the third question brings it all together, and we have to use the counter to fetch API from some resource, from a link, and then we have to show that using this component, which is a well-rounded way of um, programming a question or an assignment. So I thought that was pretty nice. So that's all from me. Thank you.